Hello, hello chat. Incredible chatters. Look at us. Look at us. Three separate unique people showing up right at the start. Isn't that something? How much we have grown in like 3 streams. Let's pull this up. Alright, first things first. Before we get into the chapter and all that nonsense. A new video has just dropped. A discussion video. Myself, Jarky Bacon, Elite Ari, and Kyle Entertainment. I don't know if anybody here has seen us chat together before. But we did a chapter review. Well, not chapter review. I guess it kind of was a review. It was more like a group discussion for 213 through 215. So, I'm going to put a link to that. And everyone, go watch this video. And I'm going to reshare when we're done. Go watch that video at some point. Not right now, because we're streaming. But at some point. Because I think it was a lot of fun. Now, immediately, question in the chat, how much longer do you think the story will last? So, alright. We just got volume 28 earlier this year. So, we're in volume 29 right now. And, if I remember correctly, we are 6 chapters into volume 29 right now. The past few volumes have been around 8 chapters. Let's see, this one was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 8 chapters, 8 to 9 chapters per volume recently. Pretty consistently, we've been hitting that. So, with that in mind, if we continue the same pacing like that, we would have about 3 chapters left in this volume. And then 8 chapters left after that. So we're looking at 12 at the bare minimum, I think. Yeah, 15, and then 16, 17, 18 to finish the volume. And then another 8. Rather 11, sorry. So if we had, 8 in the next volume, I think that's our bare minimum. So, I think the last volume, though, it could be longer. It really could be longer. And Yukimura, I highly doubt he's the type of author who would say, like, I have to end on this specific chapter number, so I'm going to rush it. The story will end when it's time to end it, you know? That being said, we're nearing that point. So, I really don't think we're going to a volume 31. I think 29 and 30 might be a little bit longer, perhaps, if we're going to go more than 12 chapters, but at the bare minimum, I mean 11, sorry. At the bare minimum, I think we have 3 left in this volume, and then 8 more after that. So, the interesting thing then, to talk about that, if we have 3 chapters left in the volume, because look how volumes have ended so far. 209, this is a big one. This is Gauki gets the sword. This is our volume ender here, the laughing while holding the sword up. That's huge, right? This is definitely a volume climax. Last one was the reveal of the disease. That's a pretty good climax to the volume, and then we start with the Canute chapter. It's a very good volume opener. And then here we had 210, very good volume opener. With the Thorfinn having his vision and then passing out, and now he's been absent for the rest of the volume, pretty much. So, we're going to be coming up on another volume ender kind of climax. And if Einar's first kill wasn't it, it's probably going to have to do with Thorfinn coming back too, I think. or the decision from the Norse to do a counterattack, like I've been saying. I think Thorfinn waking up will kind of be alongside that. But there's definitely going to be something big with the volume ending, and then something big with the volume beginning, because Yukimura has clearly been dividing things up like that. Like, what was the volume 201 was the... Yeah, so this volume ended with the disease being revealed, which is huge, and then the volume before that was the day that was Hild forgiving Thorfinn, which is massive. So he has it seems like he has the story divided into chunks in that way. Maybe shorter volumes to end it all, 32, 33. I think 8 chapters is a sweet spot. I don't think he'd go shorter than that. Then again, the page counts of these chapters, they could be a little shorter, but there's a lot he's getting done in like less than 20 pages. I think it makes a lot of sense to just have these 2 more volumes. That's what I'm thinking. Which means we're very close, though. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Well, I'm doing good. I hope everyone else in the chat's doing good. I woke up very early today to record Vinland discussion, which I linked in the chat there. It is already uploaded because these guys are faster than me, and that was a lot of fun. We also discussed a little story called Fire Punch. We read the first 13 chapters of that, so there's going to be a discussion uploaded for that as well. Not on my channel. Whenever it's up, I will be sharing it, though, on whatever channel we end up putting it on. But if you like Fire Punch, if you like Chainsaw Man, check that one out, I guess. It's never going to end. We're getting Vinland Saga Shippuden. Dude, honestly, look, I want the story to end in whatever natural way it ends. Like, I don't want it to be rushed. I don't want it to be overextended. I want it to end at the right time and feel like it was, you know, properly thought out. That being said, I don't want it to end. I really love coming back every month to see these characters again. And I would not mind if after all this they could just live happily and I could see them once a month just doing whatever, you know. But you know, sadly, that is not the life we will live. And the story will end at some point. And rapidly. Because I've said this a couple times. Don't underestimate how fast this stuff could end. The farm arc, it takes like 10 chapters from when Canute shows up on the farm to when we're leaving and going to Iceland. Which is... so much happens there. You have like Arneid's death. You have the handshake at the grave. You have Olmar's surrender. You have 100 punches. You have that whole conversation between Thorfinn and Canute. You have the goodbyes. So much happens in just 10 chapters. It's kind of crazy. So Yukimura could get a lot done. I mean, look how much he got done in 2 chapters. Ivar's dead and Einar's killed someone. That is insane. Because he takes his time setting things up like he should, but when the dominoes start falling, he's not holding back. Things happen rapidly. Absolutely love the show, and yes, all good things must come to an end. Yep, 100%. Have no choice versus I have no enemies. Your views. So I give a lot of thoughts on the Einar's no choice thing. And I think what Yukimura really wants to go for is that we always have the choice of how we perceive violence and how we feel about it, right? Because the idea of having no enemies, it's not that there's nobody who wants to hurt you and that, you know, you think violence may never come to you. It's just how you view it. You're not waiting for this unknown enemy to find you and get you. You are living as if there is no enemy for you to find. and it's a positive outlook. It's when violence comes, you're not just going to allow it to happen to people. You're not going to just allow innocent people to be hurt, because all life is precious. You know, you're not going to just let innocent people die, and Thorfinn certainly doesn't let that happen. But either way, you see somebody as an enemy when you choose to say they are your enemy, right? Even if I was being held at gunpoint right now, you know, and I have to like do something or I'm going to be killed, right? Would I see that person as an enemy? Probably. I think I'm not immune to what Einar is going through right now. But it is the point Yukimura wants to make is that it is an active choice to choose that point of view, because the real thing you need to hate is the violence itself, right? Yeah, ideally, nobody likes violence, nobody wants violence. And having no enemies isn't to say, I will never be threatened with violence, but do you hate the enemy doing violence onto you, or do you hate the violence itself? You know, that is the difference. And I think Einar could not have avoided this. He couldn't have chosen any differently to avoid being attacked here. Like, say, from maybe aimlessly running into the woods. He couldn't have evacuated because there wasn't enough room on the ships. He couldn't have asked them not to attack him. He simply was about to be killed, and his only choice here was to defend himself. And he doesn't have the physical ability of Thorfinn to, Batman non-lethally protect himself. He doesn't have that gift, and it's not fair to judge him for not having that gift, I would say. Yukimura definitely doesn't want to say Thorfinn is better and more deserving of living this peaceful life because he has the ability to non-lethally defend himself. Einar is just as deserving of it. So what choice did Einar make then? He chose to say, I'm going to fight to protect my home. He didn't have a choice here. Look, these guys, the evacuation happened, not enough room on the ships. He was put in this position where he's being attacked, and he has to defend himself. However, after this guy's dead, he chooses to go further. He chooses to continue the violence. And it's not because he enjoys the violence or likes the violence at all. He hates it. And that's the point of the arc. That the hatred of the violence is what also serves to continue it, not just the love of violence. Because if you're misguided in the way you approach to hating it, you're taking that hate of the violence out on your enemy. That is where he has lost himself. So that it's good, I think, that the way you say that, the way you pair I have no choice versus I have no enemies, because they absolutely are intertwined ideas. Because having no enemies is a choice, because when you're faced with somebody who normally would be an enemy, you have to actively choose not to make them your enemy. Voice is clipping slightly. Thank you. Hold on. How is this? I get the war, the internal struggle within. I've been hurt many times. I get those thoughts. I wish for those who hurt me to feel pain, yet fighting that within myself is the greatest battle. Exactly. Yep, because you're choosing it. And, sorry. I've seen a lot of people say it's a privileged take to say you have no enemies, right? Because, and I think that I think it is a totally fair point, because it's so easy to say that when you're not, you're not under bombardment in your home. There's no foreign invader coming into your country. I'm sitting in my apartment right now, very comfortable. I have electricity, I have food. I'm happy, you know? So to say you have no enemies is to choose to not expect an enemy, but what if there's somebody right at your door? What if it is happening? That's what this arc is about. That's what Einar's character is about. He has to confront the idea of, you know, still choosing not to have an enemy despite the fact that he is under attack. And, you know, people have been asking these questions for so long, and the story's finally answering it. What do you think would be the possible ending of the story? I actually did a whole video on that. I have a video, how Vinland Saga will end. It's one of my favorite things I've made, especially on this channel, so definitely watch that. But generally, that was a while back. I was predicting the ending thematically. I wasn't predicting exact events. High level, what I think is happening is Vinland's obviously going to totally fail. There's no saving this. And the war is just going to keep getting worse until there are no more Norse left in Vinland. Either they have fled or, you know, perished. And I do believe Thorfinn will leave. I think Yukimura is going to follow history in that sense. And everyone who lives historically will continue to live. But the point of the ending then would be to grapple with, why did this failure happen? Is Thorfinn wrong for trying this? And I don't think so. The idea would be that the idea is, historically, we know Vinland did not become a land of peace. You know, I live in the United States. This is not a land of peace, despite the fact that I live so comfortably, you know. It is founded on so much bloodshed and continues to be propped up by more bloodshed. So we know Thorfinn did not succeed in creating this true peace, and it wouldn't be fair if the story did make him do that, because we know historically that it's not the case. That's why we had that whole vision in chapter 189, the vision of the future. You know, it's to remind you, hey, you live in this world, you know what happens here. But still, the story is hopeful that by being able to look back on the events here in Vinland, by being able to see what factors lead us to moments like this with Einar, failings that are not because, you know, we love war, but failings that are because we're afraid, because we don't want to lose everything, because we don't want to be the one who is losing it all. And Thorfinn is the one who is, you know, stepping up and saying, I'll leave. I'll lose everything I care about if it means preventing violence. And the story knows common failings of people. We can't just so easily do that. Thorfinn is ultimately the only one. But if everyone here was like Thorfinn, right? If everybody in Vinland, both sides, New and Norse, if everybody approached this like Thorfinn in all sincerity, would we have war? I don't think so, no. And that's why it's not fair to say war is inevitable. War can never be taken out of humanity. It's always going to happen. There is some basis in that. Obviously, we continue to have war, and it is cyclical, and the story is about how it's cyclical. But the story also is about breaking the cycle, and sometimes the hardest part of breaking that cycle is choosing to throw it away when it reaches you. That's really the hard part. It comes to you, it comes to Einar, and you have to be able to not let it get to you, but it does get to us. And it's not because Einar's bad, it's not because we're bad. It's just because it takes someone like Thorfinn, it takes a group of people being like Thorfinn. So if we recognize how Thorfinn if people being like Thorfinn would have, you know, solved this situation, would have prevented this. If we recognize that and then we truly want to be like Thorfinn, by the end of it, Yukimura's done his job. You know, he has tried to make as many people as he can behave like Thorfinn, because, again, if everybody was like Thorfinn, maybe we would have real peace, you know? Thorfinn represents his just complete ideal of the kind of person it takes to have true peace. And if you are, you know, reading this story, you're seeing this failure, you're pained seeing how Vinland has failed, and you choose to want to be like Thorfinn, to want to hope for something better and genuinely act accordingly, you are doing your part. That's how I see it. So, bittersweet ending. Things aren't going to be solved, but it's going to be focused on trying to convince the reader to still have hope in it, despite all this. It won't be something like Attack on Titan where, you know, it's implied that the cycle is just going to continue, and it's very kind of pessimistic in that sense. It will be like the future of this story is our future and what we choose to do with it. So, I'm going to do my part. I hope you all will do the same. Wouldn't an absolute no enemies pacifist approach like Thorfinn taking 100 punches because he has no enemies encourage bullying or violence since there's no violent reproductions? I assume you mean repercussions there for that? So, I mean, the idea is that there are bullies. There are absolutely bullies. You know, that's going to happen, you know. And the point of Thorfinn, though, is not to say, you know, bullies are okay. You know, it's, you know, we just gotta sit there and take it. It's believing very strongly that if you are totally sincere, that people can recognize that, and that people can change themselves and be inspired by you to be better themselves. It's to not stoop lower, not go to that level. The idea ultimately is that people, you know, a lot of people would need to be like Thorfinn collectively to try to make Thorfinn's idea of peace work. But by not doing it yourself, by choosing not to be the Thorfinn because you don't want to be the guy getting punched 100 times, you're doing your part in taking us back and not being I don't know, I guess not doing your part towards contributing to the kind of peace Thorfinn wants. So if you're choosing not to be like Thorfinn because you're pessimistic about the idea of someone's going to come punch you 100 times, then you kind of lost sight of the plot. Really, you're focused more on the negatives, and that's very much what this arc is about. Because you have Musepikwe, who's seeing this bad future, and he's creating a bad future because he's so afraid of that future. You know, if you're imagining an enemy punching you 100 times, you have enemies. You've created an enemy in your head. So it's really about trying to do your part and believing that if you do your best to be someone like Thorfinn, then you're not going to get punched 100 times. You know, you won't have to defend yourself. It's the belief that by acting like that, you're doing your part to prevent violence rather than cause it. I think this chapter is also trying to teach us that some lessons have to be hard learned. I could tell you not to do this. Yes. So this is like one of the most important things about the arc too. All these characters who agree with Thorfinn agreed with him in a very convenient time. Because Einar, he didn't, you know, he was content with staying on the farm with Arne, but he didn't want to, you know, he was open to going elsewhere. He wasn't diehard a defender of the farm. he was a diehard defender of Arneid, but she was already gone. He didn't stand to lose her. He had already lost her by the time it came to, do I kill Kettle or not? And Thorfinn is able to talk him out of it because the damage is already done. Don't continue it. Here, Einar stands to lose something now, and he doesn't want to lose again and again and again. And that's the thing. Einar, throughout all of Baltic, he doesn't want to fight that war because the war is stupid. It has nothing to do with him. And Thorfinn also doesn't want to fight that war. They are able to agree because there's no real reason to disagree. It makes sense to not want to fight. But ultimately, all these characters have not lived Thorfinn's life. They've not learned the lessons in the same way. When Thorfinn first makes his oath, Einar tells him, I don't really get it, but I get it. And that was like huge foreshadowing to the fact that they're not on the same page here. Because Thorfinn has not learned it. Well, sorry, Thorfinn has learned it the hard way and Einar hasn't. But where I disagree with you, that it's trying to say some lessons have to be hard learned, I disagree because I think the whole point of the story and what Yukimura is actually going for here is that he believes that if he writes convincingly enough that we are essentially experiencing Thorfinn's life through this story, that we can learn the lesson without ending up like Thorfinn. You know, we won't have to go through what Einar's going through because we were able to progress through this story alongside Thorfinn. We saw his highs and lows, you know? So it's not that they need to be hard learned, it's that they're hard to learn. But by writing in a convincing way, this story can be something that makes the world better by taking you through those lessons without making you, you know, contribute to the cycle of violence beforehand. That's how I see that point, but I think it's a very good point. After we give into the violence and the pain, wanting to hurt others, after being hurt, we realize it's the wrong choice, but only after going through. Yes. Yep, exactly. That tinge of regret. You know, I try to emulate the ideas this story encourages, but there are still times in my life, you know, where somebody does something and I react in a bit more negative way, and I think back, I'm like, I wish I didn't do that. You know, that's something this story has genuinely changed about me. Because I always tried to be nice, but if somebody was being cruel to me, if somebody was being rude to me, you know, I probably wouldn't have minded as much if I, you know, got comeuppance for that. But nowadays, you know, if like anything like that happens, if it makes me sad, you know, I genuinely feel like I have been changed in that sense by this story. What's up, Mia? What's up, Enrico? How you doing, man? Welcome to the stream. Do you have any thoughts on chapter 215 or Vinland Saga as a whole? I appreciate all the questions and points in the chat, guys. It was awesome. Definitely heightens your awareness of your actions. Yep, exactly. That's how I feel about it. It makes me feel very strongly about violence and everything. Yeah, the quotes with the Vinland joke you did about the farming are truly no enemies. Yeah, I think that joke was funny. I made that joke because I thought my followers and people who know me would get a kick out of it, and it kind of left the target audience. But very interesting, you know, very interesting that, you know, people who were telling me I didn't understand the farm arc are are the ones calling me slurs over it. It's kind of peculiar. I feel like we missed the thesis there. If your reaction to someone not liking that arc is to make them your enemy. But I don't know. I'm sure I was partially asking for it by tweeting that. But I did not expect to be called certain slurs in the quote tweets. That kind of shocked me. I couldn't help but laugh. It was so insane. I had Vargar all wrong. I loved him this chapter. I low-key did too. I thought he cared a little bit more about non-violence. But no, this guy is like... He's a Jomsviking. He's not Thorkel, but he's almost there. You know, he's a true Jomsviking. Because they're mostly anime onlys. Yeah, exactly. I feel like Season 2 tells you everything. It tells you everything. But you kind of need the context of Season 3 and Season 4 to really understand it. Like, I think Yukimura has put out his entire thesis by the end of Season 2. But there's just, it needs to be explored in more depth, and that's why the story is so long, because there's so many times where I think someone watching Season 2 would think, oh yeah, violence is bad, but, and Yukimura's gotta go, no, hold on, we have more story, because there are no buts, it is just straight up bad. And that's the whole point of this last arc, and that's why this last arc is peak. Yeah, there are two sections, exactly. There is a very young audience right now, very new audience with Season 2 that, you know, it's peak Vinland Saga. This is the thing I saw on TikTok that said I have no enemies, and it's really good. And I'm so glad to have that sect, because the more people get to this story, the closer it comes to realizing its whole goal. Because the whole goal of the story is 1,000-year voyage. The whole goal is to make a better world today, now. And you need to touch as many people as you can in order to do that. So, if seeing a meme on TikTok and kind of consuming the series at a lighter level is how someone gets introduced, I don't care. And I don't blame anybody who's like, who watched Season 2 and hasn't really gotten it yet. Because I don't even think I got it entirely after reading the farm arc. A lot of the way I feel about this story now really hinges on the current arc and doing chapter reviews and talking about this series nonstop. Because I read the farm arc, I was like, Thorfinn's Grove is awesome. And then I didn't really think too much about the whole violence part and what the philosophy of around violence was. I was proud of Thorfinn for becoming a better, stronger person, but I don't think I really got it. So I don't blame anyone for not getting it yet. What do you think Carly will become? Yeah, I've been thinking about that. So Gudrid, Carly, and the new baby have been taken off of Vinland. They've been evacuated. So that is deeply concerning to me, because that means two things. I don't think Carly would have been introduced to the story for no reason. I don't think Gudrid's gonna go incomplete. And the baby is the baby. The baby kind of relies more on Thorfinn's arc and Gudrid's arc rather than having its own arc, because it's not really a character right now. The fact that they are not in Vinland either means, one, they have to end up coming back for some reason, or we're going to spend a lot more time with these characters in Iceland and Greenland when we return than I expect. Either way, that makes the Vinland arc a lot longer than I'm expecting, so I don't know. The only other option that I've seen a couple people say is, will Carly sneak back on the ship like Thorfinn snuck on the ship when Thors went to battle? I don't think Gudrid would let that happen under her watch, personally. I think Gudrid, as much as she's kind of in recovery, she's very hyper-aware. She's not incompetent, you know? And it would be, and I also feel like tonally, you know, the prologue has some kind of lighter tone stuff, especially in the Iceland sections. This is not the time for shenanigans, like, hiding in the barrel, I feel like. So, Carly has to do something important. I feel like Carly and the children have been a very important aspect of watching the growing tension and violence, or towards violence, throughout all these chapters, and I've been pointing them out in my reviews all the time. that the kids are kind of still learning about war, and as if they weren't in this land of peace at all. They're still playing with toy swords and all that. So I think the corruption of the children, and the children ending up being, you know, like just another generation like the one before, is going to be a significantly important aspect of this, which is why I'm so surprised that Carly and Gudrid are gone. And I've also been talking about how I'm very hopeful for Gudrid to have more context to her character with this arc, so I'm really hoping we get more of them. It would be very interesting if the Norse become so confident that they've won, that they go and bring the women and children back, which would be crazy. I mean, they do plan to stay here right now. They're not really looking to evacuate, I don't think. They might bring them back, which would be absolutely insane. But yeah, Carly's an interesting one. We'll see. How'd you feel Vinland ended on Hild forgiving Thorfinn? No. Bad. Be so bad. I mean, I'd be happy that she forgave Thorfinn, but that's not the thesis of the story. You know? That doesn't satisfy the thesis at all, which is trying to speak on the nature of violence and how we can prevent violence. If we just quit at the peak, you know, quit at the peak of peace when everything was perfect, it would feel so dishonest, and I'd be incredibly disappointed in the story. And I never believed Yukimura was going to have an ending where everything works out. Vinland had to go wrong, 100%. Baltic Sea War will be interesting in the anime. I wonder if people will say that it fell off. Then again, we have people saying it fell off to season 2. I think people will be weird with Gudrid's arc, with Fettered Turn. People are going to be weird about that. Absolutely. Vinland Saga will have gone woke. I think people will be pretty happy with Hunter and the Hunted for the most part. But I genuinely think Baltic Sea War fits anime so well. I think everything people disliked about Baltic Sea War in the manga, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact of people reading it monthly. I think weekly, highly animated Baltic Sea War, it might actually be a popularity boom for the anime. I think there will be people who have become elitist after watching season 2, just like people became elitist after reading the farm arc, and they will say Vinland fell off because it's not serious anymore. But I think if people are able to kind of take a step back and have fun and enjoy the arc for what it is, it will be very beloved. Because I've grown a lot on Baltic Sea War. I didn't hate it when I first read it, but I didn't think it was as good as the farm arc. Now I think it's almost as good, in the sense of it trying to do something differently. I'm worried for Bug Eyes and Niska. I'm afraid that one of the two might die and the others are discover their death later. I think you're right on the money. Bug Eyes and Niska, there's gotta be some kind of payoff there. They're going to come back around, and they will be a very important part of the whole tragedy aspect of this. You know, as for how it's going to happen and how it works into the rest of the war, I genuinely don't know. But if Bug Eyes ends up having to like defend Niska against Norsemen who have just kind of lost sight of, you know, the distinguishing different Ilnu people, and just, you know, everyone's all the Ilnu are their enemy at this point. I don't know if they'd attack a defenseless woman, but we'll see. But I do think we're due for a very important payoff for Bug Eyes' arc. He's always been a very selfish character, very much like I care more about my personal safety than anything else. But he has come to really truly have a sincere, caring connection with Niska, and that's going to be a significant part of the climax for his arc in this story, and you know what his purpose kind of was. because the arc has already done so much to give Bug Eyes so much important context of character. I really love Bug Eyes here. Can you imagine if Thorfinn gets there and sees the house he made burnt down, and perhaps a couple burnt bodies into a flying rage? Alright, so I don't think we'd get any real importance on his house. Like, we didn't really... If we were shown him building it, and we were shown him living in it a bit more, I might feel differently. But honestly, I don't know if he'll really have a different opinion or feelings on that. I guess we saw Gudrid in the house, sure, because she was giving birth. I don't know if the house really matters all that much to him, except the fact that he's probably going to worry that Gudrid and the kids are dead, which, yeah. I don't think he would go into a flying rage. I would not like that. I wouldn't like it either. Honestly, I think Thorfinn will be brought back to some semblance of health. I don't think he's going to be in fighting condition for the rest of the arc. I think Thorfinn is kind of out of commission, and that's why we have to force these characters who don't have crazy Viking jujitsu skills to be the ones who are fighting, rather than Thorfinn kind of carrying it. Because, one of the biggest things in Baltic for Thorfinn is that he wouldn't let anybody else, he wouldn't rely on anybody else. He had to take every burden on himself, and Einar continuously got frustrated with him over that, and he continues to do that in this arc as well. So Thorfinn, he would want to continue to take everything on him, but Yukimura injuring him like this, he's kind of forcing Thorfinn to not be able to take any of the defense on himself. Everybody else has to fight. Yeah, the monthly read was Death of Pain. Also the comedy. Yeah, I mean, the comedy in Baltic is rough, but I do think the themes are strong, yeah. I actually like the comedy in a lot of places. I've come to really appreciate it. I think there's like one volume where the comedy just wasn't hitting for me, because I felt like the story stood to be a bit more serious in those volumes. But like early Baltic, early like Eastern Expedition in general, I think the comedy's great. Everything with Sigurd is so funny. I am not a hater of comic relief in this story. He doesn't even know his kid was born yet. Yeah, he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know Gudrid entered labor. That's why I thought there'd be some really important significance between something happening for Thorfinn while the baby is born. I thought there'd be parallels there. I was really, dead set on that happening, and I'm still surprised it didn't. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be something very important to the fact that Thorfinn's going to come out of Vinland incredibly beaten, both physically and emotionally, mentally. He's going to feel completely defeated, and to come out of all of that to see your firstborn child, there's something to be said there. Knowing Yukimura, knowing how he views parenthood, there's definitely something to be said there. What do you think of Cordelia's future development? I think Cordelia is on track to take a life too. Einar's kind of, he's been the first here, but I think Cordelia, like, the fact that she is as strong physically as she is so, it's a Chekhov's gun. It's something that has to be fired at some point, and we come close to it with Gauki and her defending the home. Like, that's massive. She kind of locks in there and decides, you know what, I need to use my strength to protect people. I have a duty to protect people. And that's what's going to bring her closer and closer to eventually violence, and with her strength, a level of brutality that will be shocking both to us and her. That's where I see this coming. Like, the fact that despite her kind nature and her soft nature, she would be pushed to eventual, like, absurd strength and brutality. Not because she wants to do that brutality, but because, her strength is just something innate to her, and she doesn't really know how to use it. It kind of did, but I guess not in the way you expected. Thorfinn got injured in the war started. Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, it still did coincide with the war starting. True. But it didn't happen in parallel with something. That's why I really thought. I thought for sure first death and then the birth would happen at the same time. But Yukimura went a different direction. I don't think it's a bad direction at all, but I didn't expect it to align more with Cordelia and being the trigger for Cordelia. That was very interesting to me. Really speaks on to, like, you know, obviously Cordelia and gender is a whole conversation, but you know, the way Yukimura views motherhood, the way he thinks like the way a mother will defend her child is a beautiful strength, and Cordelia, it's almost like an affirmation of her womanhood for her to react that way for the baby, and I think that's kind of why he did that. Not that a man wouldn't be interested in defending the baby, but you know what I mean. Do you think Thorfinn and Einar might have a falling out? I mean, I don't think so. I think, honestly, Einar knows Thorfinn would be disappointed in him, that's for sure. He doesn't hate Thorfinn or blame Thorfinn, though. I think he's not even thinking about that right now. He's not going to be, like, blaming Thorfinn for any of this, I don't think. I don't think that would make sense for him. If anything, he might feel like Thorfinn doesn't deserve to lose this either. And in a way, he's doing this defense for himself, for Thorfinn's sake, because Thorfinn isn't willing to do it. But I don't know, at the same time, he might say, with your strength, you have a responsibility. I don't think it would be something, though, where he's like, we're not friends anymore. I think we're kind of really above that. You know, there won't be relationship drama between the two as much as they will struggle to agree. But I don't even think there will be time for any kind of, like, go our separate ways, you know? I think the war will just progress in such a way where we really don't have time to be doing, like, we're not friends anymore and having to try to make up or go our separate ways. Like, we're all kind of in this together reluctantly. That's kind of my thoughts on it. But yeah, obviously Thorfinn is not going to be happy. He's going to be very sad for Einar. I don't even think he'll be mad at him, because I don't think he'll be able to blame Einar. He knows that Thorfinn's smarter than that. He understands violence. He would understand. That doesn't mean he would be okay with it, though. Thorfinn will lock in and give Einar a good talk. I mean, he'll try, but what can Einar even, what can Thorfinn even say? You know, Einar had to defend himself. The problem, what I think Einar is ultimately a criticism of from the author, is his mindset and how he's viewing this violence, how he's accepting it, how he is choosing to engage further in it than he needs to by, like, brutalizing this guy, because he had the choice to do that. He didn't have the choice. Generally, I think it's safe to say he couldn't have chosen anything to avoid being attacked. But even if he had to kill the person, the fact that he acts this way in response to it is a choice. I don't blame him for that, but it's a choice. Do you think we might see Gudrid play a role in the war? I really wanted her to. I was kind of low-key hoping she would sail back to get Thorfinn, but there's no way she brings the children. And I also think there's no way she leaves the children behind. But I think it would be really cool if, you know, maybe the ships are kind of lost. Not all the ships. Like, basically Thorfinn has basically ran and he just has no way out. But Gudrid's the one who sails to come get him. I think that'd be nice for Gudrid's whole thing of wanting to be a sailor. That'd be cool. But I also think that's kind of just not realistic. because she wouldn't bring the kids. She wouldn't leave them behind. But the way this arc starts, way back at the very start of it. Hold on. 170. Oh no, one more. More volume. 167. Here we go. The way this arc starts, it's Thorfinn climbing. Just like in Vinland, he is the only one trying, and he can't do it alone. And Gudrid wakes him up, and she's talking to him about it. And they talk about the dream. He says, I know that Vinland is at the top of the cliff, but the dead are heavy. I always become exhausted and fall. And Gudrid says, there's no one to help you. He says, that's right, it's only me. It's always only me. And that's exactly how Vinland is going right now. He's the only one who's genuinely, like, wanting to prevent violence at all costs. Entirely at all costs, even to himself. And Gudrid says, then I'm going to be the one to help you. And this is a big panel. It's a highlighted, important panel. There is something here for Gudrid. I just don't know how it's going to happen yet. But I just don't believe Yukimura would set this up without an idea. Either she will be important in kind of bringing Thorfinn back from a point of hopelessness after the war ends and he has escaped. But I really wanted her to be part of the war. So I think it would be really crazy if the Norse managed to convincingly win a fight so well, that they actually go back and bring the women and children back to Vinland to continue living. That would be absolutely insane. But I feel like the story doesn't have that much length left to do something like that. But I don't think it's a bad idea. And it would honestly be really cool to see them try to live again in a post-war-ish way, only for war to just come back tenfold. Because it's going to. But I don't see there being that significant of a rest period from here on. Though I genuinely feel like we are on the downfall and we're going to just keep spiraling down. With very little time to pause. I think that Einar will feel dirty the moment he sees Thorfinn. He will definitely feel guilt, that's for sure. But he will also... he'll be frustrated because he genuinely does feel like he didn't have a choice there. And if Thorfinn can't see that and accept that, then he will be very upset because he feels that guilt, and that's going to be more anger towards Thorfinn because Thorfinn's getting at the truth of it. That part of Einar wouldn't have left if given the choice. But let me continue reading what you were saying. I think that Einar will feel dirty the moment he sees Thorfinn, but that in the end they will understand each other without hating each other. Yeah. No way they're going to hate each other. Absolutely not. Come back. I just think, it's not a personal conflict. The conflict is so much bigger than them and their friendship that, like, I don't know, curbing the war to have a talk of whether or not we can continue to be friends, it's something else. And I just don't think Einar views it that way. I don't think he views this as a betrayal from Thorfinn, or that he's betraying Thorfinn. It's that he's doing what he has to do for their sake. Thorfinn feels the same way. Both of them feel like they're doing what they need to do. I mean, Thorfinn's unconscious right now, but Let's see. I'm going to take this here, chat here, and I want to see if we have any comments. I'm gonna look at some of the comments on the recent chapter review and see if I have any thoughts. But if someone says something in chat, I'll focus on that. Okay. Thorfinn's reaction to all this is very hyped up, but I also can't wait to see Hild facing this. Yes. See, what's so interesting about Hild to me is that it really seemed like Yukimura was setting her up to kill someone, and she still hasn't. The fact that Einar has killed someone before Hild is crazy. A lot of the stuff I was predicting would happen with Hild ended up happening with Einar, which is crazy to me, because it all made sense that it would happen this way, but I felt like we were focusing so much on Hild that it distracted me from the Einar part of it. And I think at some point, one of the big questions for Hild, because, I mean, for Einar, I don't think it was a big question of whether or not he's capable of killing someone, but for Hild, I genuinely think it is, because she spent so much time threatening to kill Thorfinn, but she still hasn't killed anyone. So the question of whether or not she can bring herself to do it, that's one I want to see answered. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention in the video, when I was talking about some of the kettle stuff, about how Einar is kind of, he's very focused on, I don't want to lose what I have, I'm going to defend myself, blah blah blah. Also the fact that Einar had started to agree with Canute. It's like, maybe I see what Canute was getting at. Somebody left a very good comment on the video about that. The fact that, yeah, Einar and Canute both start out as people who despise war and violence, but develop to learn when to use it out of necessity. Very good. I like this comment. I think I already hearted it. Yeah, I did. Mr. Alex. Always leaving a good comment. I've seen people say that she killed the Lanu who injured Thorfinn. I speculated that for a minute, but the fact that it hasn't been talked about makes me assume not. I think it would have been talked about if it had happened. But we'll see. It's still certainly in the air. But I don't know. A first kill, like look what happened with Einar's first kill. It was so important. The whole chapter was basically about it. I don't think we'd off-screen Hild's, especially when the question of whether or not she would pull the trigger is kind of one that's been lingering over her. And I honestly think a good climax for her character would be her not being able to do it when like, you know, when it comes down to it, right? When she's in the Einar position, her just not being able to do it despite all her big talk this whole time. I think that would be something crazy. Just read the chapter. Oh, perfect timing. Welcome. What are your thoughts? Tell me what you're thinking. I think people haven't been too receptive to the whole kettle thing. I don't know how many of you watched the video that I did, but where I talked about kettle. People are definitely misunderstanding me when I point out these similarities, because it seems to be a thing where a lot of people are a little upset at the idea of Einar being compared to Kettle at all, because Kettle sucks, which is true, but Kettle is also one of Yukimura's best written characters, and if Einar is kind of holding a candle to that, I think that's a really good thing for his character. It was good as always. Yup. It's always good. I swear to God, Vinland has not had a bad chapter in this whole arc. There's one chapter in this arc that I thought was a little weak. because the art was rough. Other than that, literally, like, what is one bad chapter of this arc? I genuinely can't think of one. Yeah, I think this chapter is really good for the theme of not having a choice. Because it was brought up 2 chapters ago, and now we're kind of doubling down on it. And now I kind of get it. I kind of get what Yukimura is going for, that the choice that we do have is kind of an internal one. And I talk about that a lot in the review video. What are your expectations? Oh, first of all, we got a hello from Kiko Ano. Hello, welcome to the stream. We're just talking about chapter 215, or just Vinland in general. So if you have any thoughts you want to bring up for discussion, just drop it in the chat. What are your expectations of Sturk about the Kettle parallel? I personally loved it. So first on Sturk, I think it's really important that the way last chapter goes, Ivar essentially gives Sturk a second win. Sturk it's all crushing down on him because he really genuinely thought war wasn't going to happen, and now it's here, and that reality is absolutely crushing for him. He's lost Ganglati, he's lost Ivar, but Ivar's last words to him, and he respects Ivar so much. He tells him that he has the natural gift of command, everyone's counting on you. Do what you can for your fellow comrades. That's Ivar's last order as Stark's leader, and I think Stark takes that very seriously and emotionally. I think both in a sense where he wants to avenge his brothers, he wants to live by Ivar's last wish for him. He's going to be kind of crucial in helping to lead the Norse strategically. And this might get into some topics of like strategy versus morality, strategy of winning the war versus strategy of ending the war. And he will recognize that if disease strikes the Ulnu, that's their time to attack, and then we've got the counterattack that I've been thinking about. And about the Kettle parallel, personally loved it. Yeah, I think if you understand the point of view I'm coming from, not saying that Kettle and Einar are anything alike, but just the fact that the actions Einar is taking is being illustrated in similar ways, and there are parallels being drawn intentionally by Yukimura. Like, I mean, look at this. Well, okay, first on Sturk real quick, I just want to mention, I think we might actually get a little bit more backstory of him, of Ivar through Sturk. I really hope we do. I'd like to see a little bit more of these characters. But that being said, I don't think this chapter would have happened the way it did if we weren't supposed to make this connection. Because look, you have this conversation between Thorfinn and Einar. Einar starts asking, all right, what if war happens? And Thorfinn's like, that's pretty concerning. And Einar's like, look, I just love it here. I don't want to leave. This place is Arnheid to him, right? And the idea of having Arnheid taken away from him is something he can't stand. And in this chapter, Thorfinn brings up too much wealth brings disaster from the Farmark. The whole thing that led to Kettle's downfall. The fact that this is brought up in the same chapter where Einar starts talking about not wanting to lose this place. And then we have Einar in chapter, what was it, 212? Who Einar instructing... Oh no, it's one right before this. Einar commanding people to fight. Well, like, you know, people are kind of not really willing, people are nervous about fighting, but Einar comes in with Ivar, and he's saying, no, we will fight, we will not lose this place. It is intentional. There's no way it's not, that to be thinking about Kettle and be reminded of Kettle as we see Einar go through this. Not that he's becoming Kettle, I think that's a very poor reading of the situation. More that he is kind of the way he's falling into violence has parallels with Kettle. But anyway, I keep going about that. My prediction is that Hild will die saving Thorfinn. I love Hild, but I think there are too many signs. One of them is she's a genius for the time. Yep. Jarky Bacon did a video about Hild and how Hild is doomed because of how far ahead she is in intelligence, and I think that's a very good thing to think about that way because Thorfinn, not Thorfinn, sorry, with Hild, there's like a sort of a tragedy, right, to war taking away someone's the gift of intelligence, someone as smart as Hild being stolen away by war, and how war sets us back and we lose people who could have done amazing things. I think that's absolutely a direction that makes sense, and if that happens via saving Thorfinn, obviously that's the ultimate, that's like the second catharsis for her whole arc right after forgiving him. That's for sure. Never thought of Einar as a mirror to Kettle. Yeah, I talked about it a little bit when I reviewed this chapter, chapter 211, and then I talked more about it in the most recent chapter because one thing I pointed out, if you look at 215, the way Einar is illustrated here as he stabs this guy over and over again here, very similar to how Kettle is illustrated when he's beating Arneid. Not that the contexts are so different, you know, it's not to say they're the same, but they're illustrated with in a very similar way. And then also, if you look right at the end, this reminds me so much of Kettle holding the stick. Because Kettle holding the stick was very symbolic of Kettle accepting violence and not being willing to say no to it. And Einar holding the handle of the spear here has been shattered. It is almost like Kettle holding the stick. And these are mostly visual things to get you thinking about Kettle. And because there's thematic overlap in that idea of somebody who really hates violence yet chooses it. Oh yeah, Sturkey has to play a role in this final. Yeah, I do think Stark has some role to play. I don't quite know what, though. But now that Ivar is dead, it seems very important for Sturk. I think we're getting 2 more volumes. No, 1 more. Yes, I think we have 29. We're like 3 chapters away, maybe a little bit more. 3 chapters at least to the end of volume 29, and then I think we have 1 more volume after that, which could be 8 to 10 chapters, I think. He seems to have a sort of mental breakdown. Yeah, he kind of does. I don't think he is like completely gone, you know? It's still Einar. He isn't mentally shattered, I don't think. But I think it's just a harrowing thing of like, he's accepted this, and he will just continue this way. He will continue down this path of feeling like he's going to be very, very upset. I don't think we'll see Einar happy at all for the rest of the story. I think happy Einar's gone, unfortunately, because he's been let down by Vinland. He's been let down by the world. We can't have resolution with just a few more chapters. Yep. It's like you said on Twitter, I think. It's not about them being the same, but how they end up with the same actions. I have no choice mentality, even though they are so different. Yes, exactly. And not that their actions are even necessarily the same, because choosing to beat your own sex slave to death is definitely not the same as defending yourself against an attacker. But the point is that these are 2 men who absolutely hate violence, and they choose it. They choose it either way because they're threatened with losing what they care about. Kettle was threatened with losing everything, and Arnhid was the easiest thing for him to take his anger and rage out on. Here, Einar takes it out on the body of the man he just killed. Current arc climax will probably end when they defeat the Indian Sword. I don't know. I don't even know if they will defeat him or not. I mean, I think they're going to be forced out of Vinland. I don't think there's a single Norseman is going to be left in Vinland by the end of this. And I think there's going to be infighting with the other tribes even before that. And I don't even think Thorfinn will be able to fight. I don't think he'll heal enough to not die, but I don't think he's even going to be able to fight. You probably say, but what are your thoughts on Ivar as of now? I mean, that was a very good way to end his character. I'm still a little bit iffy on why we had Gauki just take his arm and then have him die here. It felt a little bit like why have those things be separate? If there wasn't, more character progression for Ivar to have, but the way he goes out kind of gave me a lot of positive looks at him. I think you get a sense for why Sturk believes in him so strongly and cares so strongly for him. But ultimately, Ivar is somebody who he couldn't accept a world without enemies. It's an idea so foreign to him that he was constantly living in anticipation of when that battle is going to come for what he can prove himself. And now that it came, the last thought that comes to his mind is his brothers. The very last thing he thinks about, right before this, he looks so happy up here. He's so happy to be in this battle, but it's like an empty happiness because, what made him really happy was being able to just live with his brothers. But does he even recognize that? Does he even realize why he's thinking about them in his last moments? No, he's gone. I think there's a very significant tragedy there. I talked a lot about it in my chapter 214 video. Definitely check that out if you want to get my detailed thoughts on Ivar. I'm trying not to just, restate everything I've ever said because I have so much to say. Volume 30 will definitely be the last. 230 being the finale. 230 being the finale. So we have 15, 16, 17, 18. Maybe. I don't know. I have to see. Yeah, I didn't try calculating the chapter. I wasn't thinking about it that way, but we go for, if we have 3 more left in this volume, we'll get to 218. Then we go, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Around 26. I could see 230. I think 230 might actually be like the latest point I could see this going to. If volume 29 and 30 are just a little bit longer than normal. Because there's just so much going on. Yukimura introduced so much that still needs to be resolved. Especially now that he has these other new tribes with their internal conflict. That all has to happen too. Imagine Ivar ends up alive next chapter. That would be something else. That would actually... I would be so shocked. Wonder what happened to Cordelia. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I guess maybe she's still defending the wall right now. And she didn't move to go defend from the canoes. But yeah, we didn't see Cordelia or Bug Eyes in this chapter. In chapter 215. We just saw Einar, Yum's Vikings. So we don't really have we don't really know where Cordelia or Bug Eyes is. It's interesting. Hild for sure killed a few people to save Thorfinn. You really think so? That's why they didn't show the panels? I was thinking that. I was really thinking that, and I thought that would be important. But then it didn't get brought up again, so I was thinking maybe not. But I'd still hold out for that. But I just don't think they'd off-screen it. I think seeing Hild's first kill was really important. If Hild had already killed people in the past, like if she had already killed by the time we met her, or she killed someone during Baltic Sea War, I could see it being off-screen, but it's so important to her character that she hasn't killed anyone yet, so I feel like we'd see it. What will happen when Thorfinn meets Einar again? I don't think they'll even be able to meet properly. If they will meet, it will be in the chaos of a battlefield. Maybe. I don't even know if they will meet again. I'd like them to have one more conversation, but I am kind of thinking Einar may die before then. I don't know. But it's an interesting conversation because Einar will be presenting the counterpoint of the thesis, right? You have Thorfinn is the thesis. Thorfinn is the thesis in that he believes that true peace can only be found through total nonviolence, and that you need to be willing to run away and just stop the cycle when it reaches you. And Einar is the counterpoint, the very human counterpoint of, why should I have to lose everything? The world just works this way. Why should I keep losing just because I want something better if no one else is going to cooperate? That's what Einar represents, and that's like an important counterpoint for Yukimura to be bringing up, because that's what a lot of readers are going to be thinking. Einar is representing pretty much like the everyman right now. Of, this is how the average person is probably going to be feeling about this. That, you know, Einar didn't have a choice. He had to defend himself. Why should they have to lose their home? That kind of thing. So, if they do have a dialogue, which would be really good, then that's going to be where Yukimura is really directly addressing the thesis and Einar as the counter to that thesis. If you think all chapters have 18 to 24 pages, there are still more stuff to tell. I hope Yukimura doesn't rush. Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's so much that could be done. Like, again, like I said before, the farm arc, when Canute gets to the farm, it takes 10 chapters for that arc to end. If we have, at the bare minimum, 11 chapters left, right? I mean, that's difficult. I do think these volumes have to be longer, but because I think we need to spend a decent amount of time, at least 2 chapters, maybe at least, in Iceland after the fact, after Vinland has completely failed and we have left. You know, that has to happen, but I just don't know how that fallout's going to go and how complex Yukimura wants to make it. But this war has just gotten so complicated that every time I think we have like 10 chapters left, it makes me, I start to think, oh god, maybe not, maybe 20, but so much can happen very quickly, so don't underestimate how fast the story can go now. I love that the broken spear also looks like a crop. Yeah, someone mentioned that, I saw on Twitter, that it looks like wheat, which is such a, you know, that's very poignant, of course. The same way wheat is being used as like a weapon to set fire to the wall. The spear looking like wheat, that's a really good one. I think when Thorfinn wakes up, Hild will tell Thorfinn she had no choice but to kill to save him. Oh man. You know what? Now that you put it that way, God, yeah, now that you put it that way, he doesn't need to do, Yukimura doesn't need to do the same thing twice. He kind of ripped the band-aid off with Einar by having, making a big thing out of the first kill. And if Hild admits that to Thorfinn, that's going to be crazy. Yeah, I don't hate that idea. I think it could go either way. Hold on. I'm gonna step away and get some water. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. So let's go back to that chapter. Let's go back to 210. So we have all these guys killed, took down non-lethally. But then, when it comes to genuinely, like, it's Thorfinn's life on the line. I can really see it. I mentioned this when the chapter first came out. I could really see it being that she, you know, did what she felt she had to do in the moment. This chapter is so good. And almost reading like this too, she didn't say nobody died. She said the pursuers didn't kill anybody. And she said, yeah, when she said if there's more idiots like you, it would almost imply that maybe she doesn't feel like she's deserving of being one of those people. Yeah, I can really see it. What do you think of Canute? Will we get more of him? I really somehow want one more final talk. I absolutely do. If I could have my dream, it would be that when Thorfinn returns to Iceland, Canute essentially either comes to him or summons him to just talk. I would really like that. I would love to see them talk one more time, and I think that's a very, very strong potential for a final chapter to end it. But either way, I still think we'll see Canute again. I think the parallels between Thorfinn and Canute is so important that it will be very critical to the way the story ends. And I also just don't think Yukimura would end this story without showing us like Thorkel again, to be honest. I mean, we did see him in this chapter through the little flashback-ish thing, but I don't think Yukimura, I just, you know, Thorkel's a fan favorite, right? He'd want to give Thorkel a conclusion, I feel. In one of your other analysis videos, you mentioned the original tribe might start recovering. What do you think their role would be if they do, when they want to coexist? Yeah, so what I'm thinking for the Gippi tribe is that essentially what's going to happen is you have all of this war happening, and then now they have Vargars come. They defended the fort to push everyone back, and then we had what was it, chapter 213? We had the hints of disease with the rats here. Disease is going to start spreading to the main force, and then the main force is going to start retreating, and then, you know, the Einar, Vargar, Sturk, all of the Norse have a chance to either leave, do another evacuation, or go push the advantage and go finish the job. And I think they will choose to go on the offensive, and that's going to drag the Gippi tribe into it, because, like, think about their perspective. Like, they're not differentiating right now between all these people. They think the Olnu have turned on them, and they may not go seeking out the Gippi tribe, but if the Gippi tribe get dragged into it, either the main force kind of forces them to fight, or the Norse are just attacking indiscriminately, not differentiating between Gippi and the main force, then I think the tribe we've been friends with, they're just going to end up being forced to become enemies even when they're not, because of the way this war is trending. Everybody wants collective revenge. Like this guy talking about how today's battle killed Arunkal and Kalton. This is for them. They all want this collective revenge. It's nowhere near enough. For every life of ours taken, we will make the new pay tenfold. And that's going to spiral. That's going to completely spiral out of control. That's how I see the Gippi tribe being pulled in. And I think we will get one last moment to see the potential good between them and the cooperation when Thorfinn recovers with the help of Mesepikwe, Niska, and Polmuk. I think if Thorfinn's being kept at the Gippi tribe's camp, then that's how we'll kind of, see one last time the good before it just gets ripped away by war. It's almost impossible for them to meet again. Maybe if Canute visits Iceland somehow. Thorfinn needs to survive for Thorfinn and Canute to talk. I do think Thorfinn survives. I still think he survives and gets out of Vinland. I think it's too important that the story needs to make him grapple with the fact that Vinland failed, because the story needs to it needs to still leave us on an encouraging, hopeful note. And if Thorfinn just dies without being able to even think about what happened, that would, I feel like, sour it. I really can't wait for the finale of the manga, because we will get something hopeful out of the Thousand-Year Voyage, but also start a world where Thorfinn doesn't die and the settlement fails. Yeah, I think that's absolutely what happens. I mean, that's what happened in real life. The real Thorfinn, the settlement failed, but he escaped with his wife and children. Little child, I think, just one at the time. As for how the story gets there, I feel like we're just, with the infighting between the multiple tribes plus the Norse, I think we're just set up for so much chaos that Thorfinn, after a lot of lives are lost, Thorfinn's essentially able to just flee the battlefield like Thor's did, you know? I think Yukimura will show us at the end how important characters from the previous arcs are doing. I really hope so. I've been a big proponent of that, hoping there's an epilogue where we see them. I would really love to see that. Especially with Canute, because I feel like the fact that Canute didn't create a total peace either, he didn't create his paradise, I feel like the fact that both he and Thorfinn fail is important. Like, obviously, Canute's efforts that led to the Christianization of the Vikings, and ultimately it does kind of lead to the end of the Viking Age in real life. That is in part an attribution towards the fact that, yeah, he does kind of achieve some kind of peace, but he doesn't succeed in creating paradise. It's always imperfect, and I feel like the fact that he and Thorfinn both fail to do that will be important to show, like, parallels as we go into the end. What do you think of Uggy? This crazy man could turn feral when he sees Hild next time. I seriously think Hild will possibly be killed by the Norse despite bringing Thorfinn back. That would be nuts. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if but before the end of the story, if there is Norse infighting that leads to a death. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Bug Eyes, to be honest. I don't know why I get the vibe, but I get a bad feeling Bug Eyes, because he already got abused in this chapter. They beat him. I feel like that might just continue to escalate, especially if he keeps trying to say, "Wait, guys, I don't think we should do this." But Uggy, Uggy could be dead. Like, we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him since what, 211? I think this is the last time we saw him. Yeah, I don't think we saw him after this. Okay, well, yeah, he's here. He's at the fort. Then we start evacuating. Yeah, we kind of haven't really seen him. I certainly doubt he's fighting, but I also don't think he evacuated, so I feel like he's just kind of around. I mean, I don't think he was ever going to be really that important. He was just kind of just a paranoid guy, you know? But it would be cool to see more of him. Given how much damage and losses the village has taken, Vargar will want to do total evacuation. You think so? Question is, how much longer they have to wait? I think Vargar will be convinced that they should fight instead once the disease happens. Because he's certainly capable. And I'm sure they probably will even say, like, he has a responsibility to do it if he's that strong, you know? I think the Norse will decide that they, even though they have a chance to do another round of evacuation, they won't, because they will think now's our chance, and they will think, why should we send some of like our fighters away? Everyone who's alive right now is somebody who was able to fight and defend the fort. We shouldn't be sending away people who could be defending us. I don't think they're going to continue the evacuation. Yeah, I wonder how the specific hopeful message will play the failure of Vinland. Yeah, I mean, that's what my video is all about. I like how Vinland Saga will end video. That's such an important part of it, because Yukimura needs to be honest in how this ends. That that war couldn't be stopped. That they failed, but he doesn't want to tell you that Thorfinn's wrong. He doesn't want to discourage being like Thorfinn, so I don't think... He needs to find a balance. That's what I think. Einar won't want to leave. Absolutely won't want to. Yep, I agree. I think that Vargar will wait for Thorfinn no matter what. Consider Yos' life to Thorfinn. I think he will respect Thorfinn's decision a lot, but I think he might even think there's no way that Thorfinn's alive at this point. Since Thorfinn still hasn't come back, but Einar has. I don't think he's gonna wait. But it would be interesting to see if that does create a little conflict among the Norse if he wants to continue the evacuation because Thorfinn said so. That would certainly be interesting. Uggi's definitely too scared to fight. Yeah, he wouldn't fight. I think we're going back to Thorfinn next chapter. I think now's the time. This is the perfect way to, like, this was a clear progression of events. We had the Ivar's at the Einar killing someone. Just like the kind of the first night of battle. I think it makes a lot of sense that we would come back to Thorfinn now. We've kind of hit the main, I think the main climax of the fort defense. Unless there's something to do with Cordelia and Bug Eyes still, but I think we've really hit the point the fort defense needs to hit. We might get a little bit of the aftermath of this next chapter, but I think it will transition to Thorfinn by the halfway point. Oh, this chapter was so good. I can't believe how good the art was. Recently, there's been a lot of, kind of copy-pasted drawings. You can even see here. You have, this Einar drawing is pretty much this one. Just zoomed in. But there's so many, dynamic movements and expressions in this chapter. This is such a good one. So I don't mind Yukimura, if he doesn't need to redraw a character for a scene and kind of copy pasting achieves the same thing. I don't know why he should go and put in all this extra work. In the Giguk interview, Yukimura says that he disagrees with the "it couldn't be helped" mentality, but struggles to explain it. Yep, that's what the whole story is, man. He's trying to explain it. And it's because he knows that a lot of people who come to that conclusion of, oh, it can't be helped, they're not really... the way they're responding to it and the way they're justifying the violence isn't really because it couldn't be helped. The things that you can control, people are forfeiting that control over it because it's easier. And it's kind of a natural response. But I think that's what he's kind of getting at. That, like, you know, somebody is forced to defend themselves, right? But they escalate it and overdo it. Is that person wrong for defending themselves? No, but if they defend themselves and they say, well, I did what I had to do, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the fact that you're trying to justify the violence when there is no justification, even if you did it, you know? Like, if I was attacked right now and I had to defend myself, Yukimura would want me to be so upset about the fact that I did it. And that's why, too, in another interview, he says he wants people to be so... He wants... What? People to be as embarrassed pulling out a gun as they would be by pulling out their bare dick. I think he said something like that, pretty much. It's not that he thinks anybody who uses a weapon to defend themselves is a bad person. It's that he just wants people to hate it. Just truly, truly hate it and not want it. And not justify it. Because if everybody was that way, where there's no justification, you know, the cycle wouldn't really happen. You wouldn't be dragged into violence and be forced to defend yourself if the other person was thinking that same way. This arc is so good. This arc is the whole thesis. Okay, am I out of things to say? I'm starting to think I am. I could go forever, but I'm starting to feel like I'm out of things. Let me see if there are any more comments on the YouTube video that I want to bring up. Yep, be disturbed and disgusted by violence. Exactly. Yeah, because Yukimura would never try to claim something like, oh, if you defend yourself, you're a bad person. Because he knows that there are situations where you have to defend yourself, but the choice what he wants to push is that there is a choice in how you view it. Absolutely. Predictions for the shaman. Yeah, Misek Pikwe. I think, yeah, by healing, I was talking about this in the review video. My prediction for that whole thing is that he is going to reluctantly help to heal Thorfinn because Pulmuk and Niska ask him to. And in doing that, in just the process of doing that, he's going to hear their thoughts on Thorfinn, hear why Misek has assumed wrongly of Thorfinn, and then by doing that, we'll just kind of ultimately come to the conclusion that that he'll see where he went wrong. He'll see that maybe things could have worked if I actually talked to this guy. You know, if I heard the Norse out, he will... I think the weight of the responsibility for starting this needless war will... And it's not entirely his fault that the war started, but still. I think the weight of his guilt will finally land on him, and he will have a very emotional moment over it. I also think this arc makes the rest better than they are. Yes. I didn't think the farm arc could be improved, but the way this arc is essentially acting as a sequel thematically to the farm arc with like Einar especially, it is perfect. and it recontextualizes the rest of the story brilliantly. It's all intertwined. It's very good. Coupled with the very graphic arc. Yeah, I mean, the way violence is being depicted hasn't really changed, but I feel like the length of time we spent with no violence and just peace, it's kind of perception shattering to have it come back, and you think about it in such a different way now. I've been following this arc monthly since the Iceland departure. Nice, me too. I started following it right around when Cordelia was introduced. I think that's when I caught up. The characters having brought the war upon themselves and fueled it with fear and mistrust. There's always a debate in the comments. Yep. In the end, Thorfinn wasn't right. I think Yukimura feels sorry about humanity as a whole, but not... What? Feels sorry about humanity as a whole, not knowing the true answer himself. Well, I mean, look. Thorfinn failed, but I don't think he was wrong. I think the point Yukimura really wants to go for is that Thorfinn he's done what he can, but if he's the only one who views violence in this way, then it just can't work. He can't do it all by himself. He can't be the only one. That's kind of the real problem. I think that's what Yukimura is getting at. Is that if enough people... I mean, like Hild says in chapter 210. Hold on, right at the end of this chapter. She says... You aren't dying. A good-natured flower garden of a guy like you is precious. If there were more idiots like you, maybe we really would have fewer wars. Live and make more idiot friends. That's the thesis. That's the idea. If more people were like Thorfinn, if he wasn't the only one trying to be this way, then maybe things really would be better. And I think that the story wants to convince you to be like Thorfinn. Not that he was wrong. If that makes sense. Despite the fact that he failed. Is the failure his fault? Is it the fact that, you know, he put too much faith in people's ability, both in Vinland and from the north side as well, to think like him? Maybe. But is his way of thinking wrong? Personally, I don't think so. Man, streaming's hard. I used to stream a little bit when I was younger. When I was like in high school. I used to like do video game streams, but like, you know, no one ever watched, so that I never really had to care. But now that I have kind of a little audience, streaming's difficult. I don't know how you you keep entertaining and you avoid the silence. All of them are at fault for the war. It ain't only Thorfinn. Yeah, I think it's very unfair when I see people blame Thorfinn. Because, like, what did Thorfinn do to create violence? Like, all he did was trust in the people around him to not create violence. And rather than saying, oh, rather than blaming Ivar, blaming Mesepque, rather than blaming anyone else, blaming Sturk, we want to blame Thorfinn. And it's because Thorfinn's the one I think people, I guess, expect to know better. He's the one we're focused on. Maybe that's why people lean towards that. But there isn't a single thing Thorfinn did to instigate violence, besides showing up, really. But even then, he made it a point to get the approval of the native people to stay there. He didn't, like, show up and decide we are going to be here and that's that. So, don't know. Like I'd be interested to see if somebody genuinely had a good faith take of why this is Thorfinn's fault. You know, for what happened while they're here. Like, if you want to say Thorfinn was wrong for even going to Vinland because he is trying to settle a land that is claimed by people already, I can see that point of view. But that's ignoring the fact that when they got there, they got the approval of the native people, and they had a happy, cooperative relationship, you know? And the fact that it was working. So, what did Thorfinn do to ruin that peace? I don't think he did anything. Do you think Thorfinn blames himself? Yes. Absolutely. His vision in the forest with Thorkel, Ivar, yes. He does definitely blame himself. And I don't think it's because he's not thinking, I made a mistake that caused war here. He's thinking, I was a fool for thinking that this would work. Probably. I think that's more on the lines of what he's thinking. Not that he did something wrong to cause it, but that he was a fool to believe that it would work. And in doing that, he has brought everybody as the leader into this dangerous situation. That's what he really blames himself for. But I don't think he will think, I should have done so-and-so to not cause war. Because I think he's smart enough to know that he wasn't causing it. He was doing everything in his power to prevent it, and he just couldn't. It just beat him down. Yes, exactly. Thorfinn puts people in danger, but always advocates for peace. Ivar built a fort, which saves numerous lives, but he spills first blood. Yep. Shaman did nothing good, though. I think he will come to do good things. I think he will... I think in healing Thorfinn, that's going to bring him to an understanding of how he's messed up, and he will try to fix it, but I don't think he'll be able to. Big point recently is that Thorfinn should have told him or shown them he could handle himself. Yeah, that's a big one. So, my thoughts on that. If Thorfinn... If Ivar was saying, no, we need the swords to defend ourselves, and Thorfinn was like, guys, look, I'm a former warrior, I know how to defend myself non-lethally, I can teach you all how to fight. If he did that, he would be going against the whole premise of Vinland. He would be founding Vinland on the idea of war. He wouldn't be founding it on the idea of, there is no war here, we will not have war, because we won't accept it. It will be, okay, when war comes, I'll be able to defend you guys, so don't worry. And that would be him going against the mission and failing the mission. That would be him causing the problem. Because if he were to do that, then he has introduced violence to Vinland. He has founded it on the idea of war being an inevitability. And he would have just escalated and what's the word? He would have expedited the process of getting to this point. I think he sees it that way, and he knows that. He didn't want to tarnish the mission from the start by relying on violence, and I don't think he should have done that. I don't think he should have shown his ability. I think that just points the finger in the wrong direction, in my opinion. Because again, we want to just blame the guy who is doing his best to not create violence, just because he's not doing everything in his power. Well, he kind of is doing everything in his power, but he's not preparing for violence. He's going forward with the assumption that by acting this way, violence will not happen. But people not seeing it that way is what ultimately brings us to this point. If Ivar trusted Thorfinn, like Thorfinn trusted everyone else, and this wouldn't have happened. Yep. I mean, I think it's a little unfair to say none of this would have happened if Ivar had been better, just because the tribes of warriors that are attacking them right now, these aren't people they wronged or anything. These are warlike tribes that found them. And yes, they wanted to claim the sword, but I think it would be foolish to say that if Ivar had chopped off Nisekwe's hand, there wouldn't have eventually been a time where maybe these tribes would have found them and would have found a reason to go try to pillage from them. This is like if they were near Viking raiders. It's the same thing. War was already in Vinland. They didn't necessarily bring it to Vinland. They didn't create it in Vinland. They kind of just found themselves engrossed in the war that was already here. And then that war has kind of, become their war. But that just, again, that goes to the point of it's a cooperation in order to make true peace work, including between the people who we are instinctively saying is the enemy. Like, when we're talking about cooperating and if everybody got along, this would work. If everybody acted like Thorfinn, the next thing people say is, oh, well, what about the tribes that attack? What if they attacked? And it's like, no. When I say, if everyone was like Thorfinn, I am talking about everyone. I'm talking about every single person in Vinland. I'm talking about Nisekwe, I'm talking about Muin, I'm talking about Gauki, I'm talking about Pulamuk. I'm talking about Ivar, I'm talking about Sturk. Everyone. It's this othering. The othering is so innate and instinctive that we almost forget that we're talking about both sides. That there are no sides. That they are humans trying to live in Vinland. And the way this othering is so ingrained into how they're approaching problems, it kind of seeps into the dialogue from fans around the chapters, in my opinion. I like the scene in prologue, Thor's, who are the enemies they need to learn to fight against. Yeah, Thor. Yes, okay. I gotcha. LMAO, that one poster who's always saying that Thorfinn lied about it to the villagers. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I think that person is so interesting to me because they make some really interesting points about some of the things Thorfinn kind of just overlooks out of his kind of hopeful optimism. Like the fact that Cordelia is still Halfdan's slave. She's not here. She wanted to come here, and she was able to come because she was requested it, but she hasn't been freed. So he kind of brought a slave to Vinland. I thought that was a very interesting point. I couldn't refute it. I'm like, oh, yeah, he kind of did do that, huh? He's just so optimistic that by making Vinland work, it will solve Halfdan's problems, and that by solving Halfdan's problems, he won't have to have slaves anymore, and he'll understand the appeal of Vinland, and everyone will be happy. That's how Thorfinn was thinking about it. But he kind of brought a slave to Vinland. You can't really refute that. But also saying that Thorfinn came here and invaded the people's land when he came here. He brought gifts, and he basically said, no, we can't settle until we have gotten the permission of the native people, and we will leave if they ask us to. What more can he do? I don't know. What more could he have done? I think he approaches it in the best way he really can. And if you can't, like, I don't know, if you can't show up and ask, hey, is it okay if I live here? And if you get approval and then you become friends with the people, like, I don't know, like, what was he supposed to do differently there? And it's just saying, like, no, you should have never showed up. And it's like, I think that's kind of an unfair outlook on the situation. But, I think, like, one of the things, if I could point out anything that is a failure from Thorfinn, and something that's his fault, honestly, it's that he he saw that Ivar was so adamant on the sword. He should have just said, okay, clearly this guy's not going to play along. We shouldn't allow him to come on the expedition. I get he wants to be convincing towards everyone. He wants to. He doesn't want to leave people behind that feel like they are missing something in life and they want to live in peace. He doesn't want to deny somebody the option of peace. But Ivar was not playing along. They should have been more cautious vetting that he didn't bring the sword. They should have set clear guidelines for him to follow. I don't know. It's rough. Maybe the shaman going to talk about his future vision and Thorfinn will have to answer to it. I really hope so. Yeah, he has to address it. Because that vision is so far in the future and it has no... I don't know. I'm hoping that Misekwe will come to realize that his negative outlook on life and his fear is what created that vision, because that's what Polwick was getting at. Chapter, what was it, 212? No, it's 213. 211, I mean. No, I'm wrong. It's 212. I should trust my gut. Polwick in this chapter. Right at the end, he says, Poulin, you see nothing but bad futures. Have your arts never shown you a single good future? If that's the case, maybe it's your nature to only look at the bad things. I think this will really sit with him. And I think he will think differently about the vision by thinking about it this way. The plague would have led to the domino fall. Yeah, the disease is a whole other can of worms, too. Like... But I think with the Gitp, what we're going to see, like, pull him up, look at him. He's fully recovered. He's fine. Jumping to the conclusion that, the disease is a problem for the Ulnu. It is to be taken as an attack by the Norse, and there's no means of coexisting. They were able to recover from it. It's a sad thing that it took lives, but... if through cooperation it could have been resolved. Obviously they don't have enough information. I don't think they really know it's coming from the rats, and that's kind of a tragedy to it. It'd probably be difficult, but the disease doesn't inherently mean peace was impossible. And I think the way the Gitpi tribe is going to kind of recover a little bit, and the way that's going to interplay with Thorfinn being healed by Misekwe, that would kind of serve to show that the disease didn't cause the war. The disease wasn't an inevitability of the war. Did the Northmen really bring the plague? Yeah, I mean, they definitely did. They brought out the rats. That's 100% true. The rats were on the ships, and they brought the rats. The rat brought it to Pulamuk, because we saw that in, what was it, chapter... Oh... Is this one? No, God, so much has happened. 196. That's my guess. Nope. Wrong. It's this one. Wrong. Next one. I'm a fool. Here. This is where the rat gave Pulamuk the disease. And he caught it and brought it to his tribe. There's definitely no question that they brought it. Then we get to the fact that the sword and the rats had to be there writing-wise in order for the art to continue to be the way it is. Yeah, true. But I think the sword and the rats, like, I don't... Those things are absolutely contributions towards war happening, but I think a big point that Yukimura is trying to make is that war is so messy and complicated that you can't just simply say, if they didn't bring the sword, this wouldn't have happened. It's such a complicated mess that we've created right now. I have to go. Good live. Thank you, Enrico. Thanks for participating in the chat. Good to talk to you. Realize Einar is also reverse Almar. Yeah, true. Yeah, coming from I'm a peaceful farmer to now I have I've killed some. He kind of has a. It's kind of similar. I saw the thing on Reddit. I think that's what you might be referring to. If you saw that, I don't know if you saw that or not, but they have a lot in common. Very true. The way the thing about he's afraid of killing and being killed. That was a callback to Omar, I think. And the way he stabs a guy in the neck, that's what Omar did. But I think Einar is not going to go in the direction of Omar, unfortunately, and that's what kind of makes them reverse. Yeah. Recently reread the Vinland arc, and I was surprised how much focus was placed on the rats. Can't believe you didn't notice at first. Yeah, I remember, man, reading month to month. I read... What chapter was it? Chapter 178, that's my guess. Oh my god, I was like 2 off, I think. Wait, no, was I 1 off? I was only 1 off. Ah, this is where the rats happen. Ah, I can't believe I almost had it. I've reread this arc so many times. I have such a good sense for where these things happen. But yeah, when this happened, I remember everybody talking about it. Everyone who was like participating in discussion at that time. This was before I even did reviews. But everyone seeing this would be like, oh my god, they're gonna bring disease. They're gonna bring disease to Vinland. Oh god. God, Vargar looks so different here. His kind of earlier design. Actually, this looks... Never mind. It looks 1-to-1. I really love these chapters, sailing west. The early Vinland stuff is so good. It's so fun. I miss my goofy drawings. I miss my silly characters. Everything's so sad now. But I remember when we got to Vinland, like every chapter, we were like, oh god, what if next chapter the rats show up? And we're all just waiting for the rats this whole time. And then right when I kind of stopped thinking about the rats, right when I was kind of like not really sure what's going on with the rats, chapter 201 drops, literally like 8 pages and rats. And I was like, god damn it, the rats! I can't believe I didn't consider that they would be related to Markland. Like how Markland doesn't even matter anymore. It was introduced as like the big mystery. God, this is such a poignant start to the arc. To you, I dedicate this piece, and then it all goes downhill from there. This arc is so good. Yeah, Gudrun chasing them. I remember being like, oh, the rats are back! Oh my god, the rats! So good. What was that? It was like 197? Fuck. Oh, I'm so bad at this now. It's like 194. Aha! Yep. Because I remember seeing this, I was like, oh god! The rats! Yeah, this arc is brilliant. Everything is set up. Everything is set up. Everything is planned. It's just so good. I miss this Hild. This Hild was so sick. When Hild was debate queen. These chapters rocked, by the way. Season 2. Ah, give me Season 3. Does anybody here, I'm curious, does anybody here only read the manga and you just don't watch the anime? I feel like everybody watches the anime. Look at my goats. I can't wait for the official translation either. I really, really want book 14 already. I need to add it to my shelf. I've been buying the Japanese volumes. I can't even read it. I just want to own it. I just want to physically own the chapters. And I don't mind giving Yukimura my money. He needs to make a Patreon. I'd subscribe. Started reading the manga halfway through season 2 released. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I feel like season 2, with the way how with season 2 is just a little bit slower than the manga, and I feel like if I hadn't already watched it, I would have gotten. I'm sorry, if I hadn't already read the farm arc before season 2 dropped, I think I would have. I would have got a little impatient and jumped on it. I would start reading. I mean, I watched season 1. I watched the finale of season 1 the day it came out, and then I immediately, I found where to read. I pulled up to the end of the prologue chapter, and I just kept reading. I could not stop. End of prologue is just so good. Such a good hook. Oh my god, the end of the prologue song is playing right now, isn't it? That's so funny. I'm starting to get antsy that season 3 isn't going to happen. I don't know why, but it's just, I have this bad feeling that season 2 just wasn't successful enough for them to want to take a chance on the 3rd season, especially with the animation industry being in a very awkward spot right now. Farm arc really put Vinland at peak land. I truly loved watching the prologue, but I was obsessed. I couldn't stop after I finished watching season 1. But yeah, I think season 2. Well, reading the farm arc is when I was like, oh, this is a really special story, you know? Yeah, it took one of the best shows I ever watched to like, this is my favorite thing I've ever read, for sure. Same experience with Chainsaw Man. I forget if I finished the anime first for Chainsaw Man. I think I did. I think I was patient enough to let the anime finish, and then I binge read the rest of it. I think I read it in like a day, the rest of part 1 of Chainsaw Man. Just part 1 in a day. Then I started reading part 2. I like part 2 a lot. What a crazy sequence of events these chapters are. I remember, like, I was so shocked when Cordelia brought up the sword. I couldn't believe it. So good. And we get into this, one of the best chapters of all of Vinland Saga. I think about this panel a lot. Just this beautiful background art. So gorgeous. Into this, oh my god. I wish I recorded a live reaction to this chapter. Yeah, his face of disgust. Absolutely true. So you haven't seen Thorfinn angry like this, like really like just disgusted in so long. We've seen him a little put off by someone, but just the fact that he is seeing a sword again. He was hoping he would never see a sword again, and now he is, and it's just so sad for him. This chapter's wild. His aura on that panel, yeah. Got that One Piece aura. Dude, the fact that none of this has been officially translated to English yet is insane. So much has happened since book 13. I can't imagine being an English reader who is only reading off the books, and the last thing you saw was Hild forgiving Thorfinn, and you know nothing. Like, imagine reading one book that takes you from that to this to what is it? To where would it end? It takes you to this, right? No, one book that takes you to this. Oh my god, yeah, next English volume is gonna end on this chapter. So much has happened. What if they just don't translate it and they say it ends with Hild forgive Thorfinn? So true. That would be perfect. We should do that. I can't believe how far we've come in only 2 volumes. Oh, that means that's kind of cool. That means in English, at least, Ivar will have chopped off Meshekbeque's hand in the same book where it ends with his hand getting chopped off. That's pretty cool. I don't think that it's not intentional at all, but it would be kind of cool reading that book in one sitting as somebody who's completely blind. Oh man, and we still have a whole new volume that we're progressing into. God, what a way to end a book 14. That's nuts. Description of book 14? No. I saw that there was a listing, but I didn't see a description. Let me see if I can find it. The first wheat grown in Arnade village sways in the breeze. Gudrid is pregnant and Hild is finally let go of her need for vengeance. The new world that Thorfinn dreamed of, a world without war or slavery, seems within reach. Yet, history is a tide that too often sweeps away individuals with good intentions. And there are those among the new who believe that continued toleration of these newcomers will end in a disaster. And some among the Norsemen who still hold onto a belief in physical force as a first, not last resort. What will sprout from this seed of uncertainty alongside the golden grain? That's a very good description, especially this line. History is a tide that too often sweeps away individuals with good intentions. That really is the thesis. Yeah, that's everything. That's crazy. That's a direct acknowledgement of, you know, Thorfinn not being able to do it alone. That's very good. I could see Thorfinn fight Gauki. I don't know if Thorfinn's going to be in fighting condition for the rest of the manga. I think he's kind of, he'll be, like, the fact that he's even going to live is already crazy. Never mind being able to get up and fight again. He's very weakened. That would mean this is the last, I don't know, I guess chapter 207, was it? Yeah, this is the last time we're going to see Thorfinn fight. Remember when Thorfinn... Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm so in the know about history for this, because I've done so much research to try to figure out what's going to happen, that I've just completely blotted out the idea that Thorfinn's gonna die. I just don't think about it. So if he does, that's just gonna blow my mind. I'm just not accepting that as an outcome. Yeah, imagine this is the last time we ever see Thorfinn fight in the manga. Well, I guess the other chapter where he's running away, he kind of fights a little bit there too. Oh. Insanity. Insanity, the end of that volume. Oh my god. Insanity. Yeah, this was crazy. I mean, I read this at a friend's house, who I also got him to read the manga just so I'd have someone to talk to. And the chapter dropped while we were hanging out, so we read it on his computer. And I remember, like, going like, when this happened. What an insane... this is such a brilliant page. Yukimura's a goat. He's just a goat. He knows what's up. I think this might be my favorite A&R panel. Like, I feel like this hit even more for me than this one. Just the expression here is so good. W friendship. True. Because he was an anime only, my friend. He was anime only for so long. Because I think he watched season 1 around when it was coming out. And he was like, that was pretty good. And then I went and got obsessed, and I was like, no, dude, you gotta read. And he's just like, oh, season 2 might come. And I was like, whatever. So then I watched season 2 weekly with him, and then I was like, come on, you gotta read now. And he's like, yeah, that was pretty good. I gotta read. And then I gave him my books and just made him read, and then he caught up to where the books end. And I was like, I'm going to show you a brilliant thing called Manga Dex. You're going to love it. And then we binged out the rest. I forget what chapter it was when he caught up. Oh, you know what? I think he actually caught up on, 202? Nah. I think he caught up on, I think 4? Yeah, I think this is the one where he caught up. Yeah, this is the one. Because I remember he read up to this and he's like, oh my god, all this stuff. Yeah. This chapter's nuts, by the way. This chapter's amazing. Oh my god, these pages. Yukimura is in his bag. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's insane. I also got a friend to watch the anime, but he's always distracted. That's how my girlfriend is. Love her to death. And I know she would really like the message of Vinland. I know she would really like all the post season 2 characters, but she gets so easily distracted. I had to like drag her through season 1. Didn't even finish season 1. Oh damn. Alright. Wow, it's only been 10 chapters since We Will Leave Vinland. I mean, wow, it's been 10 chapters since we leave. That's crazy, actually. Okay. I think we're at a stopping point. I think we've talked Vinland to death. So I'm gonna try... Oh, wait, hold on. I like the effect on the next page was the same when they found about the wheat. Oh, what were you meaning? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Hold on. You're talking about this one? Like Einar finding hold on, I'm pulling up that chapter. You might be a mad genius. Hold on. All right, my guess that's around volume well, I think that's chapter 68. Oh, yeah, it actually is. Hold on, it's at the very end of this one, isn't it? Look at these high quality, gorgeous scans. Or is it the? Hold on. Oh. You're crazy. Einar sideways up here. Oh my god, it is oh my god, it is exactly like this, isn't it? You're crazy, dude. That's an awesome connection. It really is just what's going on in Vinland right now on a smaller, more personal scale. That's so brilliant, dude. I love this manga. I love this manga. This thing rocks. I love it. No one's doing it like him. Okay, alright. Now I think we've covered it all. I think we're good. So, I'm going to try to do these follow-up streams after I post my video when a chapter drops. I think this is a lot of fun. I appreciate everyone who came in and chatted to give me stuff to talk about. Yeah, I think we'll just... I do want to make sure I save it until after I've written the video, just so I can get all my thoughts kind of untouched into the video and then follow up with everyone in the stream. And I did a pre-release stream for this one as well, just because I was trying to stream for the first time and I thought, let's just talk about Vinland Saga. So maybe I'll do that again, but I feel like we talked about a lot here, you know, so if I think that stream would probably end up being like, oh, let's talk about the same stuff again. But, you know, there's always more to talk about because this is such a dense story. Take care of yourself, please. Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely not... It is not a lot to do, these streams. It's very low effort for me, and it's fun to just chat. But my mouth hurts from all the talking. Seeing Einar like this hurts me. Me too. Me too. Peak stream, thanks. Alright. Everybody, take care. I will see you next month. Follow me on Twitter, I guess, if you want to hear me yap. If I have more to say, I'll probably just be tweeting about it randomly. Love your vids. Thank you. That means a lot. It's cool. It's really cool to have people actively showing up to talk to me about this. I really didn't think this would happen when I posted my first video, because I just posted that first video because I just wanted to talk. I just wanted to talk, that's all. And then I just didn't expect to get all this. So thank you, everyone. It means a lot. You were addicted to parallelisms. Opinions would theorize about him being scared of mirrors as a child. Alright. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.